All right, all right, all right. So hello, everyone. And we want to welcome everyone back to what? Three Friends on the Mic. So thank you guys so much for joining us again for another amazing conversation. So I have my two co-hosts here. I have Miss Chanel here that's going to be weighing in on her little things that she wants to say about our wonderful topic today. And then I have my awesome Julie here that's going to do the same as well. And today we have a really great topic, really great. I think it's a topic that we do need to cover because it's definitely warranted for today's world, okay? And it's gonna help us, well, let me say the topic first because I don't wanna say it's gonna help us do whatever because I'll be mentioning the topic. But anyway, our topic for today is, oh my God.
Is it a secret?
It is a secret. Okay. Okay. So let me tell you guys. So our topic today is opening your eyes to new perspectives. Okay. That speaks volumes because we can go so many different places with that. Okay. And so I know for me, the phrase that come in my mind is different points of views. That's the thing that comes in my mind. But I won't dig in. Of course, I always piggyback off you guys. So we're going to start with you, Julie. Like, what does that mean to you? What does that topic mean? Where do you go in your mind when you hear that?
So I think, first of all, like part of the reason I wanted to do this topic was because the three of us are really good at doing this, like saying, hey, like, that's not how I see it. This is how I see it. And just being open to that. Like, I think the three of us do that quite well together. But I think that what immediately comes to mind for me is you never walk a day in another person's shoes, right? So like you have to be willing to be open and listen and be, honestly, like part of it is in being okay to admit that you're wrong, right? Oh, I never thought about it that way before. I don't think I even agree with myself anymore.
Yes.
And that can be an uncomfortable thing for people, right? And people don't want to always do that. So I think just it's a mindset thing. And I think that's just kind of what I go to is like, you have to be open. Nobody's lived experience is exactly the same. And the world would be a better place if we all listened to each other and what our own experiences are and being open to hear others.
Yep.
Well,
so.
When I think about that also, Julie, like you said, it's a mindset. And I piggyback off that and say, it's a choice. You make the choice to hear someone else. You make the choice to have a different perspective, or even if you don't agree with their perspective, honor their ability to tell you how they're feeling. I think about it in a couple different ways. I think about it in a classroom. I think about it in life. I think about it in whatever type of relationship that you have. And the key point that you honed in on that I think a lot of us don't do is listen. Not listen to be ready to respond. That's a conversation I have with someone all the time. It's like, you're not listening to what I'm saying. You're listening for keywords. And in your mind now, you're ready to respond. No, to listen and really absorb the conversation. And then be mindful about your response. Because if you're only listening because you want to see where you can jump in to respond, then you're not hearing me. So that perspective, as you pointed out, Julie, could be completely lost.
You're not active listening.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. You're waiting for the spot. You're not actively listening and not truly engaging in the conversation. I think, like you said, that happens a lot in life in general. I can think about 1,000 different scenarios where there's conflict because there's not true conversation.
Right. Very well said from both of you guys. And just to piggyback off both of you, I'll just combine everything you both said in one. Yep, what y'all said. That's great. But I mean, both of you guys made some really, really great points. It's all about active listening, all about action. Active listening is basically you really listening to the person that's talking to you. Like you said, Chanel, not waiting for your turn to enter into the conversation, not be truly focused on what your point of view is, because a lot of us get stuck in that, right? It's almost like, but if you just listen, I'm just trying to show you, we do it this way, blah, 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 blah. And that can be a bit much as well. So you do have to be open to what others are trying to say to you. You have to be open to see yourself in someone else's shoes. And you just have to be an open book to learn, because also learning, talking about opening your eyes to different perspectives, guess what that helps you to continue to do? Grow. To grow as a person, to learn new things, to see if it's, I know you have a ritual, how you do something every year or whatever, but sometimes when you listen to someone else, that ritual you can see is pretty long-winded, and you can definitely shorten that thing up. And for you guys, for our audience, just so you guys know, I think I'm the more long-winded one in our group. So
we all have our moments.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if we can really classify that. I think we all have our days.
I think that's a tie for first. The three-way tie for first. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I think all my friends would be like, "Oh no, that's
very kind of you to take it,
long-winded."
Okay, so you know what? So that's good to know. So all of us are the long-winded people in the group. So, but I going back to what you said, Julie, I love that, because we get a chance to really help each other, and that's why help each other in so many ways, and that's why we have a strong bond amongst all of us, because we can definitely say, oh, okay, and this is a beautiful thing, but I'm just talking about us. It's a different perspective there or whatever. It's how we bring it out to each other. That's another thing too, part of the conversation, because when you're trying to show someone a different way, it is sometimes all in how you say it. Like, you don't tell someone like, oh, that's wrong. Like, you don't do it like that. How about you say, oh, okay, that's pretty cool the way you do that. So listen, funny fact, I've done it this way before and it worked out okay. So just to put it out there or whatever, but it's all on how you talk to people. But I think we do such a wonderful job of bringing each other in. Like, if we talked about doing something or whatever the situation may be, bring us in to say, okay, well, maybe we can try it this way, because I know quite a few things y'all have enlightened me on. And I was like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. All right, go right ahead.
And I agree with you, Kelly. I'm going to take a piece of that and say, the delivery. I think about happy times where they were soured because the way the news was delivered. Like, and it's amazing how quickly something can go south when, what do they say? Like the backhanded compliment, it's like, you might have meant to tell me something really beautiful, but because of the way you delivered it, it fell flat.
And guess what? I may not be listening to you now because it fell flat.
Yeah, exactly. And I could have tuned you out and missed all the key stuff because I felt insulted. And
it goes back, like, okay, so I'm going to piggyback off of that. And like, if you think about trying to bring somebody over to seeing your point of view, right? Like, I go back to, I was not in debate club in school, but one of my teachers was the debate club teacher. And he always talked about like the art of persuasion. And like, if you want somebody to listen to you, are you going to go and attack them? Or are you going to say, hey, I'm going to try to bring a different perspective, or like, this is, like, just screaming at somebody isn't the best way to get somebody to understand where you are. Now, are there times where I want to do that? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, there are.
Yes.
But is that the most effective way to go about it? Probably not. And like, I think because we all so highly respect each other, we're just like, hey, like, I didn't see it that way. Like, and nobody here is offended. We're just like, oh yeah,
right.
Well, yeah. And we're like, oh, that makes perfect sense, right? Like, and it doesn't mean we always agree,
right?
But it means that we respect each other enough to understand why we feel differently.
And you know what, Julie, I'm glad that you said that. That was powerful too. Doesn't mean that you always have to agree. So when we talk about looking at things from different perspectives, right? We talk about just being able to see through the lens of someone else's eyes or a different situation or whatever. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily agree with what's being said. Just like going back to the thing of when somebody presents something to you, they're presenting something a different way, way of looking at things or whatever. You don't have to necessarily agree to it, but it is good for you to open your ears and actually listen to what's being said so that you can take it in and see if there are some readjustments that you need to make somewhere else along the line. So that was pretty powerful what you said. You don't have to always take it in, but just be open to listen. That's important.
Yeah.
And it takes time sometimes, right? Like Chanel, I know you and I, sometimes we like, okay, I've heard this information.
I need to
And
process.
now
And you've heard me say it 1,000
really
times where I'm like, all right, I need a moment to process, because sometimes everything's not clicking at the same time. So, and I will take a pause and I will clearly say, I've heard you. I'm not responding yet because it's still registering in my brain. That is,
or even we come back to it later.
Yeah,
it's like, you know what? Let's come back to it next time we talk.
It's just that I need a moment, and that's okay.
It is,
you know. And I think about those times. A couple things come to mind. Keone, your point of we may not always agree, and I think I start to think about it doesn't always have to be my perspective or your perspective. It can be ours.
Right.
It can be someone else's. It doesn't have to be zero sum. There can be multiple pieces to this. With three of us talking, we may have three perspectives. We may have five perspectives because we're coming at it from different places in life, different places in the world, different stages.
Right.
You know, that brought us here to the collective. And I think a lot of times when we do have debates, we, the collective world, we look at it from A or B. Like Democrat, Republican,
yes,
right wing, left wing.
Yes.
You forget about all those other pieces.
Yes.
We're not a world of, or even a country of, one side and another side. We're gray. It goes like this. It's more of that full. And for those that can't see me, it's more about that full spectrum.
Yes.
Because we have so many different points of view, and that's what makes it beautiful, is that we don't all think the same.
Yes.
And what would make it best is, even though we don't all think the same, to recognize that, what? We may be siblings and have two totally different worlds and angles that we come at things.
Totally different.
And again, that's okay. That's all right.
Yep. But that's another thing too, right? Like
respect.
It goes back to that respect. And then I want to go back to something you said earlier too, is like, we view it as like either you're right or I'm like, or you're right. Like,
right.
But sometimes when we have that, like, hey, like, oh, I thought of it this way, and you say, oh, I thought of it that way. It's like, oh, now we both have different perspectives and we're both considering each other's and going like, wow, like I never thought of it like that before. And everybody's saying that, right? Not just like, oh, well, you're totally right. Because the other person may go, oh, well, I never thought about the way you said it either. Like that's,
You can have,
but I agree with you too. It's like so often people are like, well, it's black or white, and there's so much gray. There's so much gray.
Yeah.
You said something really powerful, Julie. I always say y'all say powerful things because words are very powerful. They are. That's why I put powerful front. Okay. But you said something. How about the fact of looking what you're saying? That doesn't mean that you're right or I'm wrong. How about looking at things through a different perspective? How about we're both wrong? How about we're
possible? It's possible.
I'm wrong a lot.
How about we? So how about that? How that would be me too. Sometimes it's like I know, like we should definitely. And I'm gonna be honest. I want to say I do pride myself in always trying to see the other side of the coin or try to look at a different perspective. But I've had my times, which is I'm pretty sure everyone has, when they thought really strongly about something. Yes, but I've had my times where I was like, well, that doesn't make sense to me. Why are we not doing it this way? Like I don't understand. But like you said, that was pretty powerful to say. You have to take it all in and just make sure it's there.
But like you said, I don't understand. That lack of understanding sometimes is what causes the issue, because we always go back to the why. Yep. Well, I don't understand. Well, why don't you understand? Am I not explaining it right? Are you not hearing it properly? Do I need to give you more information?
Do people
do you not want to hear it?
Thank you. Is it not the right time? Sometimes it's about timing. Is it the right time to have the conversation that we're having?
Are you in the headspace to hear what I am about to say?
Sitting at a concert, watching someone perform is not the right time to talk about if we're going to get pregnant, if we want to have a baby. Over dinner in a crowded room of people may not be the right time to tell you that I no longer want to date you. I think about things like this because this is what my brain does to me. I think about when people are in situations where this may not be the right time to have this conversation. But for some reason, your brain has told you, let's do this now. And the other person's like, hi, blindsided. That's me. Here I am. Why? Because the pretense of what has brought us here was not the right gig. Okay. This was not the right time to drop this bomb or have this conversation. Or on the other person's hand, it might have been intentional. You know,
no,
it might have been intentional.
With that, I got one thing to say, Julie, before you chime in. I just wanted to say I was about to say something like that because you said something about, okay, maybe us sitting in a public place telling you I don't want to date you anymore. That may not be the good place, but for some relationships, that's probably the perfect place to tell you we're not doing this anymore. So you don't go to the level. You know? We're not doing this anymore.
You might need an exit. I don't know.
Look, I just want you to have a great life.
I'm just saying, like,
look, what's the saying? It's not you, it's me. Let's just have a great life. And I'm just going to slide out the kicker.
It's also, once again, we're not communicating. If you're telling me it's not me, it's you, then I already know that it's me. Let's be real. You say that as an out. And you say that to be kind. But you know what? Being kind and being clear are two different things sometimes, because it's clearly not the truth.
Yes,
okay?
That's true. That is true.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Julia.
Right.
You had a thought, so I want to bring
Oh no,
I
was just gonna say, when you were talking about like this might not be the right time or place, like one of the things that comes to mind for me too is we live in the world of instant gratification, right? So like when we talk about active listening, or we talk about that might be the right time or space to do it, like how often is everybody like, if you got an iPhone, you can see that the other person's typing, but you're gonna type too, because it's just, so like then we do that in person or on the phone, and we don't stop or slow down. And that's another thing with the world today, right? Everything is zoom, zoom, zoom. We want an answer now. I want to make a decision, or this is my thing. This is where I'm at. I want to go. And sometimes you just have to like slow down.
Yes, you do.
take a pause.
Listen, take some time if you need to process.
Yes. Yeah.
But like show respect to other people. And I think that that's something that, like, if we go back to like the bare bones of where we started this conversation, so much of it is just like, are you being respectful and are you being respected?
Right.
When you're trying to explain your perspective or hear a perspective.
That's some powerful stuff. And that's good that you brought up the conversation about really hearing the respect or being disrespected. That's huge. And that's why I was like, this is definitely a topic for what's going on today, because as we know, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Of course you are. And everybody has an opinion today as well. Okay, that's out. But I just feel like we have so many people that are stuck on like, their thoughts, their values, what they think things should look like, that you don't even take the time to really just stop and look at another perspective or whatever. So that's why I was like, I felt like this conversation was really needed, because that's kind of a lot of stuff what we have going on right now in the world. Like I personally feel like we've moved away from a world where people can have their own opinion. Like, I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with me. But now we're in a place of, well, you need to hear me out, because, when I'm saying this is the holy grail. Like, this is right. I'm right all the time or whatever. So that was huge that you said that too. So just one point.
And you're right. You don't have to agree, but you have to be respectful of the other person. And I think so much of it, what you just said there too, like, this is what I think because this is my worldview.
Right.
Or this is my bubble.
This is my bubble. What if somebody else has a different worldview and you are maybe unintentionally or maybe intentionally being hateful towards somebody else, and somebody's trying to bring that to your attention? That's to help you.
Yes.
But again, hurt you. God, that person has to be in the space that they are ready to hear and acknowledge that information. And that I think is key for me. And I say this all the time. I love the fact that everyone thinks differently. I love the fact that there's not a bazillion Chanels walking around the world all doing and saying the same thing.
Right.
Boring. You know, come at me with something different. Come at me with something unique. But, and this is what a lot of people, I've heard them say, well, you have to respect me. I don't have to respect you. That's something that's earned.
Right.
That is something that is earned, and often earned over time with trust and honesty. So this is a process. You're not going to walk in the door. I just meet you and go, you know, I respect that person because they walked in the door. That's not how this is going to work.
Correct.
Never, at least for me, it's never going to work that way.
Right. I mean, that's
so,
Chanel. That's
we got to get to a place where we trust each other. We got to get to a place where we honor each other, and that I think is the baseline. The baseline would be: do I trust you? Do I honor you? And therefore, can I respect you? And then I think a lot of things happen from there. And because we have been, you know, computerized. Which a lot of cases is a blessing, and a lot of cases is a curse. You lost that level of human interaction. You know, I'm old school, so I still call people on the phone. So, you know, and I know if I text my mama, she gonna call me. So I can be ready to talk with her because she's not gonna text me back. But I'm old school because you know why? I like to hear your inflection. I like to hear the sound of your voice. If I make you laugh, because every once in a while I got a little something funny to say. If I make you laugh, I want to hear the ha ha ha. I don't want to hear I don't want to see an LOL or somebody with tears in their eyes. I want to hear that. And I grew up in a house like that where we would communicate. There was conversation. You sat at dinner. When I was a kid, there wasn't any phones, but you sat at dinner and you conversed, good or bad, with the people around the table. It might be a night where my siblings and I are feeling hateful and we're going to argue at dinner. But at least that was time for the five of us to sit until my sister came on, there was 6. The 5 of us to sit and have a conversation. You know, dinner's at this time, you're going to sit down, you're going to have a conversation. You know what it did? It made you get to learn and get to know somebody.
Yes.
And then, and there we go back to the beginning. You get to trust. You trust or not trust, know or not know, honor or dishonor. But at least you had information to make a decision. And you also had a chance to talk to people. Yes. And we're not talking to each other. Yes. Right. That's it right there. That's why I was going to go with that next point. That's huge that you said sitting around at the dinner table, because I want to say that don't happen a lot in homes anymore. I didn't have that. Okay. I didn't have that growing up. You know, because so it's like it's kind of half and half, because you have the families that, okay, like, I don't care what's going on, you need to be here at this time for dinner or whatever. One of my favorite shows is Dallas. I love Dallas. And you know why I love Dallas? I love the family oriented part behind it. Now, everybody loves JR, but I'm just saying, or love to hate JR, but you love the family oriented part behind it. Like, you know, at a specific time, everybody's going to sit down and eat. We were going to talk about, I mean, I think they try to stay away from business or whatever, but of course, business always creeped in, but you just have that time to just get, like you said, Chanel, get to know people, see what's going on. And the most important thing, and this is I'm going to put this out here for my parents. Okay. Our children are exposed to like more things that you can ever think about or whatever, because back when we were growing up, we had access to the internet. And am I telling our ages? I'm not, but I'll tell you my age. I don't care. Okay. If once I tell you we didn't have computers, we all sat at the dinner table, wasn't the TV in the kitchen. You know, my father, God bless him, did blue magic, be like, listen, this is the time that dinner. If you don't sit at the dinner table, then you don't eat, because this is when dinner is. This is where it is. And here's another thing. You didn't really have choices either. Like, you ate what was ever in front of you. Now, that's how the house runs. Yes, exactly. But at that time, I'm gonna say to my parents, that's very important. Dinner time can be a very important time right there, because of the fact that you get to find out what's going on with your kids, because they got exposure to a lot of things. For my people that are in relationships, period, married, not married, whatever, that's important as well. Communication is key for any relationship, but that's your time to sit down and see the other person's perspective, to put yourself in the other person's shoes, to see where they're coming from. And going back to the thing in the beginning, to actively listen. No distraction. It's okay to have no distraction. Yeah. And you put your phone down. Had this conversation before, like, I have time every day that I go for a walk with my husband. The only time we pull the phone out is to set the timer for our walk. Phones go in the pocket, we go for a walk, and that's our time to have a conversation. Now, we're both chatty, so we talk all day anyway, but that's time to have uninterrupted conversation.
Yes.
You know,
Important.
it's him and I, and that's it. There's nobody else. There's nobody calling or whatever. If somebody's calling, they're going to voicemail, because that's a point in time for us to communicate where we don't have anything else going on. We're not in a car, we're not watching TV, we're not texting, we're not talking to others. And I'm like, that time for me is special. You know, I love the fact that I have time where we can just chill. We're not dealing with other stuff. He works a job, I work a job, several jobs, what have you.
Right.
That's time for us just to chill. And I agree with you, Keone, like that for some people may be lost. You know, you eat dinner Simpson style, you know, shoveling it in, watching television, you know, one, bad for that digestive system, and two, doesn't give you an opportunity to say, hey, how was your day?
Right.
Hey,
or not even eating together.
Yeah.
Like I didn't, like looking back, I don't have memories of like family dinners outside from sometimes we'd go out on a Friday night, and then that was kind of like our point in time. But like going back to kind of like that, thinking about the dinner table, is it possible that some people, and this is me, so that's why I'm asking this question, is it possible that some people don't know how to communicate or listen to different perspectives because they were never taught to?
Absolutely. It's a skill. Like I talked to my husband about this. Like, this is a skill. Like I can cut up and laugh and joke with people and do what we call playing the dozens. Why? Because I had siblings.
Right.
So I had siblings. So if someone cracks a joke about me, I laugh because that's the house I grew up in. So you're right. I think a lot of these things are interpersonal skills that are learned.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, they are. Because I'll be honest with you, like growing up, and this is,
it's possible
go ahead.
they don't know how to. They don't know how to sit and have a conversation with someone that's meaningful, or just have a conversation in general, because they haven't had an opportunity to do it.
Yep, they hadn't been
or
exposed
even
to
just
that.
being taught to not be defensive. Like I think I grew up in a space where it was like I had to I was like I gotta defend myself. Like this is what I was taught. So like this is what it has to be.
Yeah, that's your go-to.
Right.
And then growing up and going, oh, that's wrong. I gotta fix it. But like that's part of it too, is like admitting like, okay, maybe what I have been doing, or maybe what I was doing, what is not great or was not great. And like being able to say, you know what, I recognize that and I'm gonna work to fix it. Like I feel like that's such a big thing. And I think I'm going to ask you guys a question. Keone, I'm infringing on your territory here.
Okay, go right ahead, honey.
Right? How do you each individually, because I think we should all talk about this, deal with people who are not willing to hear your perspectives or who are disrespectful immediately as you try to share your opinion?
That's huge, because actually I was going to ask y'all that question, but it was going to be like different and not
we're always
together. It's going to be some mumbling. Then I was going to ask the question, but anyway, I don't know. Chanel, you want?
I'll go. I'm ready to go. So for me, honestly, it depends. It depends on who the person is. It depends on where the situation is. If it's family, then what I have done in the past is I throw you off guard. Like if I know you're not listening to me and your family, I'll hug you. I'll go up and like, come here, give me a hug, because then I know it's gonna shut you up. It's gonna give me a moment. It's gonna give me a moment.
You're telling your family your secrets right now, Chanel. But anyway,
I know, right? I'm like,
I'm like, listen, cuz, come here, cuz, come here, give me a hug. Well, let me tell you this real
next
quick.
time she does that, they've listened to this.
Let me tell you this real quick. Like,
we're listening, Julie.
Get your own together. Get your own together. If it's someone that I'm working with, you know, I'll say, listen, we may need to step away from this topic and come back to another time when we're both in a place where we can have this conversation without there being heat. Because I've been in conversation back in the day, very short, when I was in financial aid and working with admissions, and we would sit in a room and we're trying to figure out, you know, how to divide funds up, scholarships, blah, 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 whatever happens to be. And people being so adamant about certain things having to happen a certain way and not following guidelines that have been set. and like it was as you were talking to them, it was as if you were the character from the Peanuts. They weren't hearing it. And so I would say, all right, we're not in the place right now to have this conversation. Why don't we take a 15-minute break, regroup, and come back? If I was in a position to do that, sometimes it wasn't my call to do that. I wasn't the person running it, you know? So if I was in the position to do that, I would take that moment and say, okay, we have to pause from the cause for the cause and come back to it, you know?
Oh, I like that. Pause for the cause.
Yeah, if it's someone that I am, because I've had this happen, if it's someone on the street that comes in my face, I legitimately have had this happen and say, well, who are you? Like literally not know me, know nothing about me. I'm not a TV personality. I don't play one on TV. Like literally just on the street walking with somebody and they feel as though they need to make a comment about the person with whom I'm walking, then it depends. I've gotten ethnic at times. Other times I keep it moving because I'm like, you're in this moment of time, you are not worth my time and energy for us to have this conversation because you're already walked up on me like you knew me and I owed you money. So no, we're not doing this, so
valid.
It depends on the person, the place and time. So
yeah.
Joni, I'll throw it over to you. I was a little longer than I thought I was going to be.
No.
Long-winded.
So it is true. We're all long-winded, but anyway,
we are all long-winded. Like, yeah.
But no, Chanel, you mentioned a lot of great points in there. I always piggyback off you guys because y'all get my juices flowing here. But everything that you just said, I think it's a matter of the person, the time, and the place, how you will address. And I'm not as, I can be not as direct as Chanel because Chanel just gonna tell you what it is. Like this is what it is.
Which I love. I'm working on trying to be more like that.
Again, though, it's a learned thing. I didn't come out the womb like
no,
this.
And that's and Chanel, I'm really trying to be better at that because everything doesn't need flowers and sugar sprinkled on top of it. Like sometimes you have to just be direct. But with my family, I'm more direct with my family because it's a different relationship. You can just tell them, hey man, you suck, and we can have that conversation, and that's what it is. With my close friend, with my close knit circle, as far as close friends and stuff like that, kind of direct too. Okay, you guys can kind of speak to that, but kind of direct too, as far as like just kind of. But the way of it's thoughts to how you approach something, because I do have in my mind with like, okay, is this a respectful way to say it? Right. And I never want to devalue anyone either because of the fact that just because your idea wasn't my idea or your perspective wasn't my perspective, that doesn't mean it wasn't a good perspective. It doesn't mean, like I said, we all think about, it's different things or whatever. So I think I always have when I talk to most of everyone, I always have, and I said most because family wise, they might get the business a little bit different, but okay, because they already know like the ins and outs me, but anybody other than that, I will pretty much just put it out there, like, just think about what I'm going to say, and just to make sure that it's going to come across the respectful way, and it's going to come across as, so let me say it like this. Actually, when I present something, a part of me do want you to contest it because I want to learn. Like if it's a different way to do something, I'm open to that. I am because sometimes you can get stuck in your way, and your way may not always be the more effective way, or maybe not be the more efficient or whatever. So I am open to that. Now going to the thing that you said, Chanel, person on the street, I'm kind of nice still. It's all I am. I would say, okay. And I would say, okay, thank you, but no, thank you. The only time I will get out of line is when someone was totally disrespectful. And it's like, look here, man, look here. That's when it comes. That's when the Isha come out. Like, look here, man, I don't know what we're doing right now, but we're not doing this. So you have a nice day and I'll see you later. But yeah, I always want to, whenever I'm having a conversation and trying to offer another perspective, I always look at depends on the person I'm talking to, think about the respectful way of saying it. And then I am open to to learn something new or whatever. So that's me. Jules.
Go ahead, Jules.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the thing that I constantly think about, and maybe it's just because of the world we live in today, is like, how can we lower the temperature across the board, right? Like, how do we have those disagreements or have different points of view and have respectful conversations. But I think it gets at to what both of you just said, which is kind of where I'm at. And that's, if every individual is just even more aware of it, and that can kind of happen and more people are aware of it, that's over time going to lower the temperature. Right? Like, but it's the little things, right? Like, it's like, hey, like, let's maybe try to sit down and do a no technology dinner. Let's, parents have a lot to balance, right? Like, there's a lot happening in the world, right? How do you balance everything and still make sure that you're teaching your kids just kind of like the basics, right? Like, be kind to each other. Like, I feel like it's just like those simple things. But it's sort of going back to basics. But again, with technology, sometimes it's like we forget. We forget about the foundational pieces of trying to be a good person or trying to be the best version of yourself.
Right. My dad always said, and I say this to this day, like, use your words. And then I always say, and choose your words. Like you're talking about, like, know your audience, but you have to, communication is so key that if you don't tell me what you're thinking, I'm never going to know.
Not a mind reader.
One of my beautiful Chanel powers is not being a mind reader. Sorry, not in my power structure, not in my power list. I have a list of powers that does not appear, not a mind reader.
Yeah.
So if you tell me what is going on, then I will try to assist. Like Keone, and I will say this before I let somebody else speak. What you said blew my mind, because I was like, yeah, I still don't do that. like you said, I'll come at you with a little contesting so I can hear a different perspective. I'm not going into the conversation looking for a different perspective. If it happens to manifest itself with that golden nugget, bravo, glad it happened. But that's not, in most cases, that is not the beginning of my path.
That's not the Chanel. That's not the beginning.
I said,
So interesting that you say that, because there's times where I feel like you do that though. Like, there's times where I feel like you do that though.
It's completely not. It's not intentional. It's
oh my God, I love it.
I can guarantee it's not intentional, because she said, and I was like, don't know that I'm living my life that way. But I like it. It like added, like I said, add a little nugget in there. I was like, hold on to that little golden nugget. I'm gonna be able to use that later.
There you go.
I don't live like that, and I would love to live like that.
It's a mindset thing, though.
Antagonistic way, but more of a growth.
Yes.
Way. You know, like when you said it,
growth
I was like,
mindset.
That's a glorious way to grow and change and learn.
Yeah, you go.
I didn't think about it that way until you said it. Yeah.
And you know what, Chanel, because I know we're getting ready to wrap up here, but that's what I was about to ask that other question, to piggyback off of Julie's question. Like, what was the last thoughts of what you want to give our audience as far as looking at being open to looking at different perspectives on things or whatever? And Chanel, I'm going to go back to you only because you started us off with some really great stuff or whatever. So go ahead and finish it on up, sweetie.
I would go very short list. Talk to people. Talk to different people. One of the things I've learned my whole life, I practice here and there, and over the podcast, people, you will hear me say it many times. My father was a person who talked to everybody. He didn't know a stranger.
Yeah.
And so I definitely don't live my life that way, but I have moments where I try to talk to different people that I might not normally talk with, just to hear how their life is. I'm blessed to be in a position in a career where I have that opportunity.
Right.
But I would say, talk to people, ask them questions where you really want to hear their genuine response.
Yes, that part. Could you repeat that for me, please? Because
ask them questions where you really want to hear their genuine response. And you really want to get to know them. You really want to hear their perspective.
And I'm sorry, the only reason I wanted you to repeat that again, because that's a nugget, okay? Because some of us ask the question, about something and you want an opinion about something or whatever, and you're in your mind, you're expecting for them to be like, oh, this is great, this is awesome. But really that's not what they're going to say. So I need you to be prepared to listen and see it from a different perspective or whatever of the advice that they're giving you or whatever it is they're trying to say. So that was pretty big what you just said there. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
Okay, Jules.
Yeah.
Jules.
I think the thing for me is if you are not willing to see someone else's different perspective and you're lashing out potentially in anger, is that how you want people to talk to you?
Put that
What is the method in which, how do you want things to be delivered to you? And how are you delivering things to others?
Yes.
I'm loving the two-way street.
Yep.
It goes both ways. And I think that's really what it all goes back to, is like, it's nobody's right 100% of the time.
Right.
Not even close.
No, not at all. Because we're not perfect.
So nobody's perfect.
Right.
And I think we as a society are afraid to admit when we're wrong and to feel that there's some sort of guilt or something associated with that. Put that aside. Just listen. Just genuinely listen to what other people have to say. And if you find yourself reacting in a way, like, try to have a check with yourself. Like, is this how I want to be talked to? Is this how I want to be treated? Because if not, then you better change how you're delivering it, because it's not going to be effective. That's not going to be an effective method of trying to persuade someone.
That's correct.
And number two, like, you're shutting down. Like, that's, so take that step back, take a step away. If you feel like you're going that space and you don't want to, and you do want to listen to somebody else's perspectives, but you're not in the right headspace, like Chanel said, like, take a step back. But I really do think delivery and just, you're right, Chanel, respect is earned, but like, don't come at somebody with anger or attitude or something right off the bat either, because then you're never going to be able to build that trust. So just be mindful of how you speak to other people. It doesn't have to be somebody you know. It doesn't have to be family or friends. I actually think it's especially important when it's not. So
that's good.
That's where I'm at.
Yep. And as usual, I agree with both of you. Everything that you guys just said. So I'm going to throw out a couple of phrases here. Pause for the cause.
Yeah, I like that one too. I'm glad you wrote it down. Thank you.
I would start using that now. But anyway,
I'm gonna add that to my board.
I don't know where I got it from. It is not a Chanel copyrighted phrase. I have no idea where I got it from, but I know that I use it. So.
You know that meme? There's like a meme that says, "I'm gonna steal this from you" or whatever.
Yes,
that's me at the moment.
Okay,
I'm gonna steal that from you.
That's it. Look, I'm gonna start doing it to the. Hey, you know what? We're just going to pause for the cause. We'll be back. So I love that. But I agree with both of you guys. First of all, just go to the respect part of it, right? Let's go to the old saying, you have to give respect to get respect. Okay. It's all about how you approach someone, all about the respect, all about being open. And it's just, I guess I'll sum it up with this. It's just so important to see different perspectives on life, period. Okay. Because I'm trying to think of a great example, but just like some people live in their states of where they live and they've never been outside the state of where they live. So the only perspective that you have on life is your surroundings and what's around you. Obviously what we see on television, but television is not always true form, but you have that perspective around you. So when you meet someone outside of that, or outside of the box that you're used to being in, or outside of whatever you're used to being in, and they're trying to offer something to you, granted, respectfully, okay, be open to that, because that's what helps you grow as a person. And I always I'll tell anybody this: when you stop growing, it's almost like you die. And I know that's so harsh to say it out loud, but you die in the inside. Like you can't, and I feel like when you stop growing, you will not get to your full potential or where you're supposed to be in life. That's how we get to our full potential, by starting from when we're babies, growing up, learning all this different stuff or whatever. And believe it or not, those were new perspectives. Like, we thought it was okay to talk like this, hama shama 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 shama. And then as we got older, we understood that no, it's words, it's actual words that you're going to be pronouncing as you grow up or whatever. So it's just, I mean, I just think it's just really important to always keep an open mind. Always, and if you are trying to show someone a different perspective, be respectful about it. Be conscious about what you're saying. And I can't think of the word right now, but it'll come back to me probably later. So I don't know, but anyway, but the end is all off just to say that just have an open mind and be respectful. So you guys said so many great things today. It's going to be awesome. And of course, I got a quote. I want to end this with is something so simple, something that we know what we need to do or whatever, but it starts like this. Learn to see things from different perspectives. Never limit yourself to just one point of view. Author unknown. So don't know what that is. I know, right?
Love it.
I know, but I thought it was pretty good for the set there. But all right, you guys, this wraps up another episode of Three Friends on the Mic. Thanks to our wonderful audience. Thank you guys for joining us for each session as we kind of led on out and discussed some stuff. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for people.
Bye.
Bye.